act they had just passed 3 years before. But late in the year, late October, he succeeded, and that was off the books, and that was a complete precondition before economic recovery could happen. It took a while, but the economy began to show signs of life later in his term. But he was very valiant in fighting for that over the objections of what seemed to be a majority in Congress as late as the middle of 1893. I'll leave you with a few words about his foreign policy, and then we'll open it up to questions. Cleveland was a non-interventionist in his foreign policy. He believed that the duty of the government in terms of defense was to secure the legitimate security interests of the United States and otherwise leave the rest of the world alone. He thought of the world as he did the citizenry back here. We don't try to reform everybody. We do certain minimal things, and in the case of national defense, that is to protect this country, not everybody else. He had an opportunity to seize Hawaii. In fact, the outgoing president, Benjamin Harrison, had put an annexation agreement on the table. And when Cleveland took office, one of the first things he does is he withdraws it. And he observes that what was going on in Hawaii was not kosher, that there were some Americans who had engineered the coup against the Queen. And he said it's not the duty of the government here to be a part of a process of overthrowing other governments and then taking them over and annexing their territory. That's not American, it's dishonest, we're not going to do it. And so those of you who might have wanted to grab Hawaii were disappointed until William McKinley took office, and then the deed was done. But Cleveland said it wasn't done properly and rejected it. When he died in 1908, Alan Nevins, his Pulitzer Prize winning biographer, writes about what his last words were on his deathbed. He apparently said, "I have tried so hard to do what I thought was right." Almost too good to be true. I mean, it really did sum up the man. He may have given a lot of thought to what his last words should be. But I can think of no better summary of the life of Grover Cleveland than what he himself said in his final words. He did try to do what he thought was right. And in his mind, that meant keeping government honest, keeping it small, trusting the people, getting out of their way, off their backs, and out of their pockets. And it's not a good commentary on American life today that a man who stood so foursquare for such strong values is now not widely known or remembered. So I hope tonight I've said something to arouse you to the need to have an annual Grover Cleveland dinner or something like that. Thank you. Any questions?
Can you compare or contrast Grover Cleveland to what you see in Barack Obama? And I realize it's a short amount of time, but what you see today, not so much on his policies, but the man himself.
His personal character?
Yeah. What do you ascertain from what you see?
Yeah, I can't say that anybody has yet nailed Barack Obama for an example of personal venality, of conniving to steal or...
Resco in his house.
What's that?
Resco and the way he bought his house.
Yeah, there's Resco. There could be. I don't know that that's been proven just yet. So it's a little premature. I can't say he's a dishonest man, but I think he's a very mistaken man. I don't, as glib and articulate as he is, I think he's just dead wrong on almost everything. And Grover would be horrified today to see what he's doing. The faith that Barack Obama puts in government is just astounding. It's as if he's learned nothing from experience. And turning over the first budget, or the stimulus bill rather, to the Congress, say, here, you write it. I don't think you'd ever see a Grover Cleveland doing that. So far, I have to say that policy differences couldn't be wider. Personal character, it's a little premature. Yes, sir.
It seems today, or in the last 50 or 100 years, that you've got a president that had the lobbyists, the lawyers, the people around him that really presidents then their own men? I mean, this man didn't have a high school education, yet he became certainly one of the great presidents of our country.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think there's a lot to that. Not to say there weren't some managed and packaged candidates, but nothing like today. And keep in mind, this is the time before even radio, let alone television. And so there was less of a need for the glitz and the glamour that image makers today feel they have to wrap around the president so he can carry the vote. People really were more interested in what they said and what they did and what their character was, because they probably would go through the whole campaign without ever having met the person, without ever having seen anything but maybe a picture of him, and certainly not heard his voice. I think partly because of our telegenic age, we tend to be more superficial. We tend to look at things like how a person seems to carry himself, how glib he is.
No, but were there too many, I mean, it doesn't seem to me that there were too many men around an individual that pointed him in a direction.
Yeah, no, he certainly was his own man. He
Okay,
really
that's
was.
so.
Yeah, I mean, he had close friends, I'm sure, who advised him, but he, in the end, he was not a packaged candidate. Nobody told him what to do, what to say. He was his own man, and what you saw is what you got. He never tried to hide behind any prevarication.
Was there any president after that time, that came close to exemplifying the traits that Cleveland went to?
Yes, to a great degree, Calvin Coolidge. He's often vilified, wrongly, as a do-nothing president, but I like presidents who do nothing, frankly.
Right, well, I'm with you.
Leave us alone. But
Give me a little more nothing.
he was a lot smarter and a great sense of humor. He actually held more press conferences than any previous president, and yet Coolidge is thought of as, never having said a word. That's because there were famous moments when he was very silent. I remember a great story about Dorothy, forgotten her last name, a journalist, sat next to him at a dinner, and she said, Mr. President, I have a bet that I can get you to say at least 3 words. And his reply was, you lose. Now, there's a lot about Coolidge. Vince?
You mentioned that you were an economic historian. The next book that I was planning on reading is Hamilton's Curse that came out recently.
I just read it myself. It's great.
Oh, well, what did you think about it?
Oh, I love it. Hamilton's Curse by Tom DiLorenzo is a wonderful work. It is revisionist history because, Hamilton is thought and widely written of as the great financial savior of the country, but I think he's vastly overrated. And the other side of Hamilton comes out in this book, his support for government subsidies and monopolies and central banking and those kinds of things. Present another perspective that you don't typically get in the history book. So I thought it was a breath of fresh air.
So he created one of the central banks.
Yes.
Cleveland got rid of, would you say that's another good thing from Cleveland? Did Cleveland get rid of
No, you're thinking of maybe Jackson.
Oh.
Yeah, Hamilton created the first bank in the United States.
Right, and
which
Jackson.
Jackson killed the second bank in the United States.
And did Cleveland get the third or not?
No, the next one, there was a National Banking Act under Lincoln. It didn't create a central bank, but it created a network of federal regulations. The next big central bank will be the Federal Reserve, which started in 1913. Yes.
Yeah, that was the National Banking Act, wasn't it? 1864 was Lincoln. You said that he wasn't for the, printing money. How much paper money has our country printed